May I now call upon Mr. Ed Almond to please introduce Dr. Gopi. Ed Almond, Chief Executive and Secretary of IET International, joined the IET in 2001 as Head of Business, Planning and Performance. Ed gained an MBA in 2004 before becoming Director of Corporate Strategy and Planning in 2005 and Director of Finance and Planning in 2006. Previously, he worked within the Johnson's Construction Group and provided strategic support to the UK board. Sir, the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Can I use the... Yeah, super. Okay, well, while we're setting up, just to say what a delight it is to be here in Bangalore. So Shekhar reminded me, the last time I was here was 10 years ago. And I have to say there were some really impressive changes, not least arriving at your new Terminal 2, seeing the construction of the metro station. But most importantly for me, I've been here about 36 hours, and I'm sure in those 36 hours I've heard about more than 36 fantastic examples of real-world solutions being rolled out in India. So the thing I've noticed most about revisiting 10 years on is that we are seeing a sort of a wave of transformation, I feel, moving across India and driven by a group of entrepreneurs and engineers who feel very confident in what they're doing. So I congratulate all those colleagues I've met on what I feel is engineering time has come to deliver real change in India, and it's really impressive. So we have seamlessly switching microphones. And the other thing I'd like to say, actually, before I get into introducing Gopi, is just to say I have, of course, met many of the IET's volunteers in the last day and a half. And I just want to say on behalf of the IET, thank you so much for all the hard work that you do. Obviously, well done. Yeah. As all of you know, IET is a community of engineers, and without those volunteers, of course, IET would simply not function. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached that eagerly awaited moment, the IET presidential address. But before we invite Gopi onto the stage to enlighten us on the transformative power of AI, I'd like to take this opportunity to provide you with some insight into his own remarkable journey. You're all well aware that he holds the distinguished title of being the first global president of the IET from India, a truly commendable achievement. Albeit only the latest of his many achievements. So prior to this, up until January 2019, Gopi served as a Group Chief Technology Officer and Innovation Head at Tata Sons. During his tenure at Tata Sons, he played a pivotal role in facilitating the development of pioneering products and services, orchestrating strategic technology collaborations and driving innovation across the vast $100 billion Tata Group. Before his tenure at Tata, Gopi held the position of Chairman and Managing Director at the GE India Technology Centre. Here, he contributed significantly to the growth of GE's largest R&D centre, the John F. Welch Technology Centre, positioning it amongst the world's foremost leaders in intellectual property generation. Gopi's association with the IET dates back to 2012, when he joined the India Development Panel. He later assumed the role of Chair of the IET India Awards. His dedication to India industry is further exemplified through his past chairmanship of the CII National Technology Committee and his instrumental efforts in establishing the CII Tata Communications Digital Transformation Centre of Excellence. He also played a pivotal role in shaping the future of data science and AI as part of the NASSCOM Governing Council for the Centre of Excellence for Data Science and AI. Throughout his career, he actively fostered academia-industry relations, right from his Tata days through research collaborations with Harvard and Yale, and establishing those centres of excellence at both IIT Madras and IET Kharagpur. Sorry, apologies for my pronunciation. His current venture, Myelin Foundry, is dedicated to reshaping human experience and industry outcomes through AI-driven solution. But Gopi's contributions extend beyond his professional life. He has been a mentor to young entrepreneurs and engineers, guiding them on their journey to becoming the best versions of themselves. Uniquely, amongst engineers, I'm not sure it's that unique, he possesses a strong creative side that complements his technological acumen. Gopi is not only an author and poet in multiple languages, but also a DJ, a photographer, a film director, and most recently, an artist with his exploration through Midjourney. His profound passion for the limitless possibilities that AI holds for our future, coupled to his dedication to the IET's principles of inclusivity in the profession and sustainability in solutions, are testament to his unwavering commitment. We are both honoured and privileged to have him at the helm of the IET this year, eagerly anticipating the uncharted territories of technology that we all explore together. So please join me in a round of applause and enthusiastic whooping to celebrate Gopi, his remarkable achievements thus far, and all that he represents. Come on, Gopi.
Thank you very much. After that introduction and that music, I'll always fall short, I'm sure, but we'll give it a go. So I'm talking about a topic which is dear to my heart, and like Ed said, India is the topic. Everything else is in that context today. I also need to tell you a story about IET and how I joined IET. Ed has heard this before, I think, not many of you have. 2012, Shekhar Sanyal comes, I was with GE at that point of time, and he says, Gopi, we want you to be part of the India development panel for IET. So I assume that, okay, I heard the word India development. I said, okay, the IET is going to do something to develop India. And I said immediately yes, right? And so it took me some time to figure out that it was to develop IET in India. But by then I was in and committed, and this is now 11 years later, and very happy to have been part of the journey along with Shekhar, Mustafa, Indra madam, and so many others who are all present here. So I'll be talking about India for sure. I'll be talking about AI, another topic of interest for me, and I'll be talking about engineering. And engineering is something that all of us hold dear. So I will look forward to inputs from you as well. With due permission from Shekhar, I'll try to make it as interactive as possible as we go through. So talking about, I thought this should work. I was close. What is the standard glitch you start with, then everything goes smooth, right? We all believe that. So talking about India, India is a fantastic place to be right now for a technologist, for an engineer, for an innovator, for a business person, because we present a 2x opportunity in India in the next 7 years. So in every area that you can think about, we need to add a $100 billion opportunity. So in energy, as an example, we need to double the power generation capacity. Today we are at 400 gigawatts, so we need to take it to 800 gigawatts. Each gigawatt is $1 billion, so that's $400 billion right there. And then you do not have the evacuation capacity for that, so that's the transmission and distribution lines required to take that generated energy into the homes and factories. So that's another $400 billion of opportunity. So that's an $800 billion total opportunity in the next 7 years, and we need it. And even after doing that, on a per capita basis will be far lower than any other country in terms of consumption. So we will do it green, we will do it the best possible way, but we still need to double the energy generation capacity. So in that manner, you look at each one of these areas. Agriculture, we have some of the lowest productivity on agriculture on a per hectare basis. So we need to double that agricultural productivity. We need to double the people distance and the goods distance from a transportation standpoint. From a health standpoint, we need to double the investment. We need to equip the 150,000 health and wellness centers which are there, well situated around India. And we need to reach the next billion people with education and with entertainment. So this is a lot of things to be done. AI has a role in each one of them, and we'll talk about that. So if you look at it broader, not just from an Indian context, but from a global context, these are the same areas that everybody is trying to address. And typically when we look at contribution from the corporate world, what we think about is, okay, what are the trends? What are the socio-political trends? And what are the consumer trends? This morning, Mustafa talked quite a bit about geopolitical trends. But we need to understand those trends, which leads to understanding the market needs globally. So in energy, for example, globally, we are trying to move from affordable renewable energy to near zero carbon renewable energy. People will tell you zero carbon, but that is something which will impact somewhere else. So near zero carbon is what we should be looking at. And similarly, you go down the list and you will have a global need as well. And in order to cater to this, then the corporates look at technology, which is looking at, of course, computer sciences, digital, AI being part of it. But that's not all. You need to know that there is significant progress being made in the biological sciences, life sciences. So that will play a role as well. And in material sciences. And that is the intersection of computer sciences, material sciences, and biological sciences that will be where the innovation happens. And again, like I said, to optimize this intersection, AI will play a role. So let's talk about AI, and I want to make sure that I convey the sense of optimism and the fact that this train has left the station, and we need to regulate, of course, we need to bring in the good practices, of course, but it is a matter that we can address. The opportunity that AI has is really tremendous. So let's understand what is this artificial intelligence. So people can debate about the label, artificial intelligence versus augmented intelligence. For me, it matters less as much as what it has to offer and also what it is. So if you look at intelligence and start talking about human intelligence, all of you are quite familiar with IQ, right? Hands? Yeah. EQ, also hands, yes. HQ, headquarters, Madhav. No, he's been in one of my talks previously. So HQ, so IQ is intelligence quotient, which is, typically genetically inherited. Pardon me for saying that, but if you don't use it, then you lose it also. And if you use it more, you can develop it more. EQ is something which is sensorially derived, so emotional quotient. So being able to understand the mood of the room or mood of somebody who you're speaking to, this all comes under EQ. And there is HQ, which is not headquarters. It is hand quotient, the neural pathways which you open up when you use your hands. And these neural pathways which open up are not specific to what you're using your hands for. Let's say you're sculpting. Your neural pathways are opened up for other tasks as well. You become more hands-on on everything. So you go closer to the data when you're working with data. You go closer to the customer when you're working with the customer. So that's also being hands-on. If you're a mechanical engineer, of course, you can get grease on your hands, but that's not the only hands-on. But by doing that, you're opening up neural pathways, intelligence, which is broader. And you have not heard about that before because this is something which I am talking about. And then there is BQ. Even Madhav will not remember what is BQ. It is bacterial quotient. See, the world conspires to give us intelligence also. The environment conspires to give us intelligence also. And that is through the bacteria present in every cavity that you can think of that we possess, and on the skin, and in the gut, and in the mouth. So you have this bacteria which is actually helping you both physically and mentally. Today there is a lot of research being done on this, but this, in my view, is our symbiotically received intelligence from the universe. Now, AI, on the other hand, is a small sliver of understanding of human intelligence. So it is not something that we have taken all of human intelligence and tried to condense it into a computational method. So you can think about codified rules, you can think about data query, you can think about machine learn. Today, if there is an excitement around AI, it is because of machine learning, it is because of neural networks, in particular deep neural networks, those deep neural networks going into transformer models, those deep neural networks going into stable diffusion models. This is where the action is, and this is why so much can be done. But all this has been possible because of the computational power that we have at our disposal. And in 1990, my master's was funded by NASA. And even then we were using neural networks. Even then we were using multi-layer perceptrons. These multi-layer perceptrons have become deep neural networks by putting any number of layers. In those days we had computational power that we used only 3. We didn't want to go beyond, and I'll talk about the reason why. So you think about AI, it's tree-based, that's also AI, because you can go down yes-no path and make a decision. A computer making a human decision is AI. Fuzzy logic, you don't go down a tree, but you evaluate all possibilities and give a possibility to each outcome or each decision. That's also AI. Similarity queries, so you look at the data and find other situations which are similar. And then there is deep learning. And we'll talk a little more about that. In the past, generically intelligent systems were not possible. And we are headed towards there. So there's a difference between generative AI and artificial general intelligence. So Gen AI, which people are talking about today, is a brick in the wall of what would become artificial general intelligence. So what is artificial general intelligence? Humans are generally intelligent. So the same Gopi or the same Ed can come up on stage and give a talk, or go out and recognize a face or forget a face. You will excuse us if we do. Or understand a particular law of physics. So this is the same person, same intelligence. In the past, with AI, used to train a model to do a particular thing. Right? The goal has become that we will make artificial general intelligence, and that is something that might happen, and people will debate if it needs to happen, why do you need it. But the first step in showing why you need it has come with generative AI. And you'll see that you can go into OpenAI tool like ChatGPT, like DALL-E, and you can ask it to do pretty much anything. You can ask it to write a story, you can ask it to translate a story, you can ask it to write poetry, you can ask it to translate poetry, you can ask it to write a proposal. And I've done it. I've done it for $1 million, and we have won it also. Right? It's not that it can take nothing and come up with a proposal. You still need to give it everything from an intellectual standpoint. But it will put it in a manner which is more digestible and looks voluminous enough that it stands the test of a proposal with the purchasing department. Right? So that's important as well. So previously, generically intelligent systems were not possible. Even today, it's not possible, but we are headed there. The first step in that direction is generative AI. Also, previously, episodic memory was not there. So if I have this discussion with all of you today, and I gather some memories, some intelligence, as a human being, I can draw back on that at a later point. With AI, it's trained, and what it is trained is all that it has. It has no episodic memory, and it used to be the case. Today, all of you know that if you interact with ChatGPT, you can go back to the same conversation. You don't have to recreate it. You can start where you left off and ask a new set of questions. Based on the previous interactions, it will continue. So you don't have to think that there is no episodic memory at all. Previously, there was no episodic memory. There is a version of episodic memory today. Creativity, think about it. I can create paintings like Picasso's from doodles, right? Is that creativity? That's for other people to debate. But AI can interpolate very well. So if I give it enough artwork, it can create an artwork between Picasso and Rembrandt, or between Picasso and some contemporary of his, right? So even as humans, if you look at creativity that we often see, it is an ability to digest multiple forms of creativity that we see around us, and then put our own wrapper around it and present it. So if you see a particular Vaikuntham painting, there is a history of Telangana style paintings which have gone before Vaikuntham, which are very similar. Vaikuntham has a signature which makes him Vaikuntham, but it is not by itself without a body of work which has gone before it. So can we hence call even AI as being creative? Yes, I think so. To some extent, it cannot extrapolate. It will not be able to create a new form of art as of today. But maybe it can, because it can create pretty much a lot of creative stuff. If it passes the human muster, then it is something that can create a new form of art as well. Emotion, I didn't leave it out, I left it at the end intentionally. Emotion probably is the last bastion of what we do as humans. Because if you think that we can program emotion, that itself is contradictory, right? You cannot program emotion. Emotion is when you say a particular word and become emotional about it, right? So some of us, if we say India, we become emotional about it. And if I can program it, that might not be emotional, right? So, but emotion has a critical role in all that we do, and in leadership, and in being able to deal with sparse data and still take decisions. And it is important not to leave our emotions at the doorstep, more so because everything else AI can possibly do. Just give me a second. Yeah, so let's understand what is AI and why I say that we don't need to be scared about AI. So what is AI? So AI is taking the fundamental building block of one aspect of human intelligence, which is the nervous system, and trying to mimic it mathematically. So in the biological scenario, you have a neuron. The neuron has a body, it's called soma. It has got an axon which conveys signals which are collected. The collection is done by dendrites. So this is mathematically modeled. So the mathematical model is you have inputs. Here I'm depicting as x0 to xn, and they are weighted, and they're passed through a nonlinearity after summation, and that's it. So can this be so powerful that we have to be scared about AI, right? Now, I will be remiss if I say that this is what AI is about. The power of both human neurons, the nervous system, and the biological and the mathematical replica is not coming from the neuron itself. It's coming from the massive interconnectivity that is there in the human nervous system or the deep neural networks that we are using. That massive interconnectivity is where intelligence is stored, right? And so that is important to realize, that those synapses where the chemicals store information, or in this case the massive interconnectivity which AI has, is where the intelligence is. Now even then, what is the intelligence? So if you look at that equation there, Wi xi plus b, ax plus b equal to c, ax plus b plus c equal to 0, that's a equation for a line. And so you can draw a line in one layer of a neural network. So it can separate classes. So I can separate dogs and cats. If I use a two-dimensional representation of maybe the length of the tail and the pitch of the voice, I can separate out dogs and cats by drawing a line. It need not be a straight line, I can draw a curved line. If I add one more layer, I can draw curves, surfaces, curved surfaces. So that is the reason why we felt that 3 layers were enough in the past. And we felt, okay, after lines and surfaces in multi-dimensional space, I don't need anything more. So I have everything I need, and I don't even have the computation to add any more layers. Today, I keep adding the layers. If I get a 0.0001% increase in the ability to classify, or the increase in the ability to improve the quality of what I'm doing. So again, I'll repeat, there's nothing to really fear in the technology. Human behavior, on the other hand, is something else, right? So how you use technology is not something that is a problem of the technology. So can there be bad actors using AI? Of course, there can be bad actors using AI. Were there bad actors using the internet? Of course, there were bad actors using the internet. So think about it. You have dark web, and in the dark web, you have transactions which you and I even cannot imagine the nature of the transactions, right? So will there be a dark AI? There is already dark AI. And the question is, the benefits far outweigh the issues which crop up of this nature? Yes. And can regulations limit the impact of something like dark AI? Yes. So we will move forward. Like I said, this train has left the station. The regulators, please get on the board, and engineers get on the board, and let's take this where we want to take it. Otherwise, there are other people who will go with the AI and do things that we are not really happy with, right? So it's better to drive the positive outcomes by being active participants and making sure that we are thinking about ethical data, ethical AI. And I brought in the topic of data. Data is 80% of what we do with AI. You do not have the right data, you do not have AI, right? So you need the right data, you need the right annotated data, you need to think about what is the data that you need, only then you can think further about AI. So let's understand. So today I'm going to give you an engineering lecture, but as smooth, as easy as possible. So what is this deep neural networks that everybody is talking about? So I already talked about what the multi-layer perceptron did. It drew lines, or it did surfaces. You could either classify, saying that on this side of the line is one particular class, on this side of the line is another class, or in multidimensional space, in this surface, on this side of the surface is one class on this side, and you have many more classes, then you can extend that thinking. Right? So with deep neural networks, what's happening is a few things. One is, when we did AI in the past, if you were to give images, if you were to give AI, videos to AI, it would definitely crash the best of computers which was available. There was no way it was going to digest all these pixels, multiple frames, and try to do AI. It was just not possible computationally. So today, hence we used to do something called feature extraction. So if it's an image, we used to take a discrete cosine transform, which from an entire image we could reduce to some 10 numbers and say this is the image in its reduced form, and it represents the image. So those were tricks that we had to do. Today, you do not have to do it because you can use any number of neural networks. So at the input, we have something called convolution neural networks. It looks at an image, it looks at different aspects of the image. It looks at colors, it looks at shapes, it looks at lines, and then it determines what it needs based on the input and output that you provided. So if your input and output is to say whether this is a bird or an animal, then it will figure out what is the convolution neural network job to be done. Then it goes into the deep neural network part, which I already described in terms of being able to classify or morph. Now I'll bring in that word morph. So I can also take Ed's image and make it look like Tony, right? It's something that you have seen, deep fakes. And he might be giving a speech, and I can make it take that and morph that speech to be something which some other character is giving, which totally is not a message which Ed wants to give. So that's the wrong aspect of using AI. So you can morph it because I can morph one surface to another. So the applications are many, and I'll go next into actually showing you examples. But the biggest reason why we are talking about AI today is because of the impact it has had on natural language processing, voice recognition, and image aspects. So anything to do with images, if you want to do today. In fact, even if you have work which does not involve an image, if you can think about whether I can change this job to include a photograph, right? So if there is an operation going on in a factory floor, previously you might not be capturing the video of that operation. But if you can think about changing that operation to capture the video, then you can automate that line, because I can recognize everything about that line using AI. So those three areas are extremely critical, and going into the future, it's going to go from image to video, it's going to go from morphing to recommendation engines, recommendation which is more suitable to what you and I do. Today, if you go to Netflix, the recommendations are quite poor, right? If you go to some other channel, it might be even poorer. But we can do a lot, voice matching, so dubbing. So if you, or even image change. So if you have a celebrity who, like maybe Rajnikant, he doesn't have to act anymore. Somebody else can act. You can morph that person's face. You can morph that person's voice. You can do the entire movie because you've digested so many other Rajnikant movies with all the peculiar mannerisms, right? So people might like it, might not like it, but it can be done. Today it can be done. And there are very many other areas, but of importance are things like health and wellness. And people worry about areas such as legal. I have a dear friend Naren, and he has views on this which are all in the right direction, saying that what can be automated should be automated even in the courts, right? And he's been talking about this for a long time. Can we use video in the court to look at the procedures? So we'll now talk about some examples. Please watch this video. So what we are seeing here is our Delhi streets, right? So the problem when it came to us, AI was quite advanced, but they still couldn't figure out how to handle Delhi streets. There were cows and horses, and there were women in saris is what the problem was stated. And they said that what was happening globally was not addressing identification of these folks. So we were able to do it. And it's a matter of providing the right amount of training data, annotating it properly. So this is an exercise which anybody can do today, provided enough computation. Anybody can do it today, provided enough computation. What we also do in my company is we make sure that we can do it on the edge. We can do it in the automotive. We can do it with very low compute, and that's where some of the magic needs to happen. Yeah, here's another example of something that AI has done and we did in our company, Myelin Foundry. So you look at nighttime video of a rear view camera in an automobile, and it is not very useful for parking. If you use IR, it still gives you images which are not as easy to use as daytime. So if you can take the nighttime video and make it look like daytime, it would be great, and that's what we have done using AI. And you cannot do this with filters, because if you use filters uniformly, it will raise the brightness across the board and it will just wash the entire image. So the individual can park better. You can see even the garage, the flowers on the, or whatever that is on the garage, the features become much more visible. There are many applications of this, including surveillance, right? So you can think about many more, I'm sure, in your own fields. So here's another example of being, this is the morphing part or adding part. So you take a video which is 180 pixels in the Y direction, and so you make it into a 720p in terms of the quality by adding pixels intelligently and making the quality much better. This is again something that all the things that I'm putting up are, I'm representing the team that I work with. So again, why is this important? We talked about carbon. You send across a video and you think that you're just watching a video. You also have a carbon footprint because this video is being stored in multiple formats. It's being transmitted using bandwidth. This bandwidth requires servers which are using AC in the hottest possible places, right? So if you are able to reduce the footprint of the video that you're sending across, then you have had an impact. So this actually can reduce the footprint of the carbon footprint of the video by 40%. Yeah. So here's another example. You talked about all the things that India needs, and we also need to produce, and we need to produce with quality. So the ability to do quality products needs inspection, something that every factory needs. So again, automating the detection of defects. Here we are doing multiple things in the frame which are important to note. We are looking at the hands, but we are not interested in the hands. So we are looking at the hands only to eliminate them. We have green boxes around templates, and those templates have what are used for sizing the defects. So again, we are not interested in calling those defects, but we use that for sizing. And the defects itself are present on the component, and they are defects only if they remain as you rotate the part through. So these defects are identified better, more consistently, lesser time. And this is currently semi-automated. You can completely automate it also. As a progression, we will see this always happen. We will have a semi-automated method before complete automation. Here's another example. I'll let you listen.
How does this audio sound? If this seems okay, we will go ahead with this keeping in mind the license of this code. This has been added to verify the complete functionality. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, so here we can have the lights back. So here what's happening is, if you listen to the quality of the speech, it's not all that great, right? It's got some distance to go. But this is just a quick journey. In the next few months, you will see that everybody is able to take the speech to the next level. But why is this speech in this quality, whereas you can see in a public domain many other videos which have higher quality? Because here what we are doing is more difficult. We are taking text and converting that to speech, and then converting that to phonemes. We are taking those phonemes into visemes. Those visemes are used to map to a single photograph. That single photograph which you see there has been generated using generative AI. I did it using Midjourney, as a representative of an avatar which can sit in a car and talk to you about where you're going, maybe talk to you about the warning signs which are coming up on your dash which you're ignoring, or whatever it might be. Talk about music. It can go and retrieve lyrics of the song that you're playing. You can sing along, you can do antakshari, you can do many things with your car, especially on Bangalore roads. I'm sure all of you have spent 1 hour in the car. Right? It'll make it a little more pleasurable, hopefully. Yeah, so the healthcare part, again, this is an area, each one of these areas is at a different level of research. We had Zoho talk about R&D before. Here's something which is high-end work in terms of R&D. So the ability to look at multiple inputs which are non-invasive and be able to predict chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is a precursor to chronic disease, which is all forms of disease other than infectious disease, right? So if you have diabetes or BP or even cancer, these are all chronic diseases. So if you are chronically inflamed, which means at a cellular level you have started becoming ill, then in the next several years you are a ripe site for disease to form. What that disease is, we will not predict, and that will be based on many other aspects, genetics included. But the fact that you are putting yourself at risk, we can predict. Maybe you can take steps, exercise more, take less stress, go out into the sunlight, whatever it is that will, and we can measure and tell you if it is working better. Eat less fried food. I don't know what it is that will work, but you can do that by looking at things like bioimpedance. You can look at heart rate variability. We can look at a picture of yours. We can look at your eyes. We can look at your tongue. But the important thing is combine all that information and be able to tell whether you are chronically inflamed. In order to do this, while training, we will do blood tests, right? While training the network, but not for you, not for the users. There is data generation part of it, and we'll generate enough data that will give us the confidence that, yeah, now we can put it out into the field and trend-wise identify chronic inflammation. Yeah, so this is again got multiple uses. If you're treating cancer, the amount of dose of medicine that you give is based on how inflamed your body is. Because if you give a dose which is not appropriate for your inflammatory state, then you're doing a disservice to the body. So there are many things, many places that this can be used. So those are varied examples of AI, which I thought I'll show to you. And these are examples that my team has been directly involved with, and hence I was comfortable presenting it without having to give a lot of disclaimers as to where this came from. Yeah, now let's talk about engineers, and that is part of the discussion as well. So engineers, I come from a family of engineers. Many of you do too. I'm fortunate that I'm giving this talk in front of my dad. He's sitting here. He is an engineer, instrumentation engineer, and full career of engineering at the Aeronautical Development Establishment. But I'm also fortunate that I'm giving this talk in front of my mom, who is a creative person. She's MA Sociology. She writes. Her grandfather's statue, my great-grandfather's statue, is on Tank Bund in Hyderabad for being a poet and reformer. And her father won the Central Sahitya Academy Award. So there is creativity on that side. Hopefully, I'm a good mix of both. At least that's what I'd like to claim. But I think engineers in general are a good mix of the left and right side of the brain. And that's what we will talk about in a little more detail. Especially now, engineers need to be continuous learners. If you are a PhD and an expert, that's great. That's a great starting point. But if you think that that has earned you the ability to coast, you're going to be absolutely wrong. Because things change so fast that what you have learned is extremely critical in so much as being able to continue that learning journey. Each of us need to be a storyteller and an artist. The ability to sell a particular project, the ability to convince the leadership, be it academic folks. Vijay is here. I'm sure she's put together many proposals and has been denied many, but the few that she has won is because she's a good storyteller. You need to be an artist in the sense of being creative, being able to look at the problem. And I'll give you an example. I took a colleague of mine to a problem, and this problem was being looked at by many people for many years in GE Plastics. And this was a problem of looking at flammability of plastic material, and it was a very manual process. So you take a sample, and you bring a Bunsen burner under the sample, it catches fire, and it warps in 3D, but you have to keep the distance between the tip of the plastic sample and your Bunsen burner the same. And you do that manually by looking at what's happening. And then you wait for the plastic to melt. So you count the time it took for the plastic to melt. And then you bring the Bunsen burner back again, and there is another test which happens. They were trying to automate it, and they were trying to do image processing to remove the flame. And I took this gentleman, Anandraj Sen Gupta is his name, to the problem, because I knew that he had a different way of thinking about it, talking about being an artist. He was an artist. So he looked at it, and he came up with this idea immediately, right? Not much thought. He said that, Gopi, this subtracting of image won't work, of the flame, it won't work. Shine a light on the experiment. The flame doesn't cast a shadow. You please track everything on the shadow, right? It's a simple, creative, artistic way, an engineering way to solve the problem. And that's all that automation need for GE Plastics. And they have used it, and I'm told that they tried to solve it for 12 years before this came up and it was used. But we need to continue to be that artist. Deep relationships, everybody understands, but leverageable weak ties are very critical. What we build many times in IET, and nothing bad about it, are leverageable weak ties. People that we know, and we can pick up the phone call and say, can you help me with this? Can you be part of this? Can you suggest who can help me with this? And those we need to continue to pay attention to as we look at new engineers. The new engineering force that's coming up, we need to think about it. And we are custodians and not owners. If you look at the people coming into the workforce, they are much more attuned to the planet. They are much more in sync with not owning something, but as much as leaving the planet a better place than they came in. Right? So a custodian, not an owner, is how engineers are. And as leaders, we need to know that, and we need to be there. Same, I'm sure we are, but we can be humble and give credit as well. And so that's the connected with the planet piece as well. So the leadership in context, many of you are leaders, and you will agree and add also. We need to be responsible. We need to have a culture of service to planet and society. We need to be creative. Innovation happens at the intersection of disciplines. We need to be hands-on. I think I made that case enough. We need to increase the intelligence in how and what we make. We need to be change agents, reimagine businesses. And I'll state this clearly, in an analog digital world. So people will beat the drum for digital. It is. But digital by itself will not cut it. It's an analog digital world. Think about it. If you can bring the live music quality into your living room, won't it be much better than the digital music that you will listen to? In fact, the Bose speakers are exactly that. They have these waveguides at the end of the digital stream. They try to bring back something analog, and that's how they are much more beautiful in terms of the sound quality. And we have to be impactful globally. We have to be impactful locally also, but we cannot remain there. Few things on engineering, more pertaining to India. So from an engineering excellence standpoint, we need that foundation. In India, we definitely are one of the best, if not the best, on theoretical fundamentals and theoretical foundation. Where we need to get better is that hands-on piece. We need to be at the equipment, we need to be near the data, we need to be at the customer sites more and get that exposure. As engineers, we need to have the engineering mindset. In India, we are very good with components. We can design the hell out of any component. We are good at finite element modeling. We can do stress analysis or an electromagnetic design. Nobody can second guess what we can do there. However, system level thinking, we need to get better, and systems do not stop at the immediate system after your component. It will go all the way to the people who are buying your stuff. So you need to think about systems much more. And from an execution standpoint, you have all seen it. We can do things for the lowest possible cost, but we do not document anything, right? You will agree. We believe that we remember everything, and so we do not document anything. But this is a sure way of not being able to collaborate with ourselves. Right? I have been in situations where I go back and look at notes and I say, boss, I wrote this, and I'm very happy because I cannot imagine remembering any of that after coming out even 2 days later. You're a different person. When you're in the depth of something, you should be documenting it. When you have come up with a method, you should be documenting it. You can collaborate with yourself. You can collaborate with the future generations as well. And that is one place where we have fallen short, because engineering is a discipline where it is built on heritage. And if you do not write, where is that heritage? Right? So we need to make sure that we are talking about this to all the people that we know. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about all the bullets here for sure. Enough is to understand that from an innovation standpoint, there's no formula that will work. But there are things that are important. You have to be able to create, but people confuse creation and creativity with innovation by itself. It's a great starting point, it's a mandatory starting point, but that's not the end of innovation, being able to come up with an idea. In fact, in India, there is no shortage of idea. Everybody will come and say, "Ek idea hai," right? The problem is that, are you willing to put the sweat and tears and blood behind that idea? That's where we fall short. So that's where the nurture with passion comes. 95% of the time is spent trying to sell the idea, improve the idea, take other people's idea and build build that into your idea. And there are less people willing to do this than we need to in India, right? We need to pay attention to that. We also need, as corporations, to fund the ideas. So the larger corporations are not funding R&D. Zoho talked about R&D, great. I'm not sure what is the percentage of R&D funding. Right? Globally, if you take a look, 4% of GDP is what is the R&D budget. We are at 0.7%, and it has dropped from 0.8%. So it's not going up because our GDP is growing, and we are keeping the same R&D spend. So we are not nurturing those ideas, even those limited ones that come up, right? And then change with detachment. When you're the most successful, you need to be able to change, and you need to be able to think about the next idea. And that is so important, otherwise you'll become a one-time innovator. So now I'll come to the last part of what I would like to discuss, India and generative AI and what we should be doing. At least a view on what we should be doing in this area. So that picture there is again Mid-Journey generated by me, and you'll recognize that if you have ever looked at any of the Indus seals, there is a seal called Pasupati, or it's called a yogi seal. I think it's a tax collector. But that is the seal I took and made it come alive a little bit. I can iterate on this and make it come completely alive if I think that this is the right representation of that individual. But yeah, there is one aspect of generative AI which people have been exploring in India already, bringing our mythology to life. It's a great use, and being able to do historical work and bring, let's say, Ashoka to life and so on. But we need to do also more than that, and that's what I'll talk about. The India Generative AI Playbook, what do we have as existing assets? We have great AI talent. I know that because I've worked with people on a day-to-day basis. People just coming out of college, undergrad, they are great. They are second to none, right? So we can rest assured. If we have to give them an opportunity, it has to be about exposure. So Shekhar talked about the internship program. It's a lovely program because that will make the Indian engineers as good as they can be, the best version of themselves. We have diverse data. Look at the languages that we have, right? If you want India to play in generative AI, we need to have our own large language models. And it's not a matter of pride, it's a matter of need. Because today, if you go and try to write poetry in Hindi, in ChatGPT, it will give you garbage, right? Every word and every sentence will be fine, but it is not a poem, it's just a list of words and a list of sentences, because it's not been trained in Hindi, even though they claim that Hindi is part of it. Even worse is if you try something in Telugu, right? So it's not that generative AI produces great poetry in English, but at least it does a coherent job which makes it look like poetry and original poetry. But we need our own large language models. One company invested $10 billion into OpenAI. Now, OpenAI CEO can come here, Sam Altman, and say that India cannot do what we have done. And that's not because of the talent. It is because of the investment. So where does that investment come? We'll have to figure out. But we have the talent, we have diverse data, and diverse data needs. We need strategic alliances as part of the playbook, international partnerships, industry, startup, academia, government collaborations in order to take this to the next level. We need to lead on global applications also. We need to take care of India, but we will be able to get better and better only if we consider ourselves in India as being second to none. And like I mentioned, we need the India foundational models, and we need to use that to come up with the disruptions because we have the diversity of language. And hence, things like communication, we can think much more cohesively and comprehensively to contribute globally as well. My presidential year, I will be focusing on a small portion of this, which is ethical data and AI, and there is a lot to be done here. So there is a company that I've interacted with, Sudha is here somewhere, Nudge Foundation. So through that company, I interacted with Karya. They're doing wonderful work with data and ensuring that you're paying the right amount to the individuals in the rural area who are producing that voice data. You want something spoken in Gondi, you're getting it from somebody who is living in poverty. And if we hence give them only what they ask for, that's not fair. You need to pay them a fair wage, and that's what they're going after. So ethical data is much more than privacy. It is much more than the government regulations around sovereignty. These are all important. But we need to be much more comprehensive, and we need to provide leadership for the emerging markets, right? So the markets which have already developed have enough people providing this kind of information. We need to take the leadership for emerging markets. By emerging markets, India and India-like, not only our neighbors, but also Africa. Nobody is speaking for Africa. Can we speak for Africa in the manner that we understand? Because we come from that same place. Yeah, so this is pretty much my last slide. So AI jobs should be India's focus. So all the dialogue that we have around AI, whether I'm talking about research, whether I'm talking about data, it should flow into jobs, right? And we can do it. We need to create 100 million AI jobs, and I will repeat it again. We need to create 100 million AI jobs. I will be singing this song. I will be making my contributions to it. I'll be making my contributions as an entrepreneur, as part of IET, as part of CII, as part of NASSCOM. If everybody in this room also believes that, it's going to just multiply that possibility, and it's very much possible. 100 million jobs we need in India, right, in the next 7 years. So if it can take that 100 million and make 70% of that for rural population, for data annotation, for data generation, just click a image, create a video, that's also data. And if it is a video of automotive going on a street, that's also data. But if it is a video of a per individual doing high jump, that's also data, right? And this doesn't require a fancy degree. So can we create 70% of that 100 million jobs in the rural sector using companies like Karya? These are really good people. You know, the people who are running Karya, I'm not associated with Karya in any way, so I can freely talk about them. Really good people who could be doing anything in this world, but they chose to come back from wherever they were globally and serve India in this manner. Can we also join that journey? 70% data creation and annotation jobs, be it images, video, voice, audio. 20% can be application development, and that is still going to 20% of 100 million is still a lot of millions, right? So the ability to take what is out there from an algorithm standpoint and put it to good use, we have the skill. So we have to provide that leadership and be able to create those jobs. Chris is here. They have created, you know, hundreds and thousands of jobs similarly with IT, and various aspects of what Infosys did is the basis for where we are today in Bangalore. And we cannot stop there. Chris has not stopped there, and we need to continue this journey, and this is a great place to think about. But can I request that can we also think about where we will lead the world in algorithm development? We owe it to the world, right? We have so many people, we have such brilliant brains. If we do not pull our weight, it is not appropriate. It is not that we are competing with the world, we owe it to the world. So I'll end with this, that you know, as innovators, as engineers, we need to create with freedom, we need to nurture with passion, and we need to change with detachment. Thank you so much, everyone.